In this module on real numbers, we are going to go through a quick discussion on what really we have learned so far about the real numbers. What are all the numbers that fall under the family of real numbers? Okay, so we will begin our discussion with this number line. Let's say we start our counting system. We always begin at 1, right? So we go from 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, like this. Okay, now this number system that we learn in our elementary days, we very commonly classify them as natural numbers. Basically, all the numbers that begin from 1 and onwards, there is no end to it, are natural numbers. With one thing, that these are the numbers in whole units, such as 2 or 3 or 4, right? So this is a set of numbers known as natural numbers. Very commonly, we show them as n, okay? And then as a natural evolution, we said that, well, just the numbers beginning from 1 are not enough. We also want to talk about a 0. So we said that, well, that's good enough. We will add a 0 to this set of numbers. And all those numbers that begin from 0 and go all the way to the positive space of numbers, the whole unit of numbers only, we will classify them under a class of numbers known as the whole numbers, right? So whole numbers are the numbers that contain natural numbers and a 0, right? And then we further advanced our discussion. We said that, well, just the 0 and positive numbers are not good enough. We want to talk about the negative numbers, such as -1 or -2, -3 and 4 and so on, right? So this space of numbers that contains the negative counterpart, all of them, keep in mind, all of them are the whole unit of numbers, right? So negatives, positives, and 0 in between, all of those numbers are very commonly classified under a class of numbers known as integers. And this set of numbers is written as a capital letter Z, right? So this is what is known as integers, okay? So integers, they contain all negative numbers, positive numbers, and a 0. But they have to be the whole unit of numbers, right? And then we said that, well, just the whole numbers are not good enough. We want to know about what exists between two whole numbers, such as a number between 2 and 3, or a number between 1 and 2, or anywhere between 0 and 1, and likewise between any two negative integers. So we said that, well, we could very well define some numbers that are between two whole numbers, such as 5/2, which is equivalent to stating that it is 2.5, or it is another way of writing 5/2 is 2.5, right? All of these numbers are either fractions or decimals. And we said that these numbers fall under a category of numbers called as rationals. Well, rationals, they include fractions, decimal numbers, and also integers, because every integer can be written as a fraction. And in our earlier grades, we said that all of these numbers, they can be very easily represented using a notation system, a ratio of two numbers p/q, such that q is not equal to 0 and p and q are integers. So this is a very common way of writing rationals, right? Very commonly represented using a letter q, and this contains all of those numbers written in the form p/q, and it also contains integers, correct? But we said that, well, this is not good enough. We also want to talk about numbers such as square root of 2 or a pi, all of these numbers. Well, then we define one more category of numbers. We sometimes write them as the complementary of rationals, meaning these are irrational numbers, okay? So these are the numbers that cannot be written in the form of p/q. So whenever this kind of condition exists, we define them as irrationals. And finally, at the top of this classification system exists a category of numbers known as the real numbers, okay? So real numbers are all the numbers that contain rationals, irrationals, integers, whole numbers, natural numbers, all of those, right? So this is a very good and easy way to remember about the classification of real numbers, okay? So whatever we have discussed so far, you have studied all of that in your earlier grades. So this is just a quick recap of what you know about real numbers. In your upcoming tutorials, you will learn a little bit more about Euclid's division lemma or a fundamental theorem of arithmetics and so on. Okay? So let's go dig deeper into the real numbers by talking about those specific fundamentals.